Hello, YouTube. Let's skip with the trying to show personality and just get to the fucking video. I made another version of this, but the fucking light's shining through my window. I've got like cover and everything up, but it's still shining through. And as you know, I'm incredibly awkward and essentially a human version of the coronavirus. So far as I am incredibly antisocial, and I'm used to making my videos with no light on, and I've done it for so long I've forgotten how not to, and it just makes me more comfortable. So I did that, and I would like to make the fucking video, and there's one person watching, I'm sure, for all of 5 seconds before dumping my ass. Hence what happened the last time that also threw me off. But anyways, a lot of information there. Let's get to this. Um, to start this video, this is going to mostly be about Bernie Sanders and his policies and why I support him and um, why I will vote for him. I also want to talk about two other issues, one having to do with Sanders, one not, and the first one is not going to. Well, fuck it. Let's start with the one that has to do with Sanders. Joe Biden, the Democratic Party's 60-something-year-old golden boy, who, everyone supported, including the feminists and everyone else, who they chose over Sanders. And I still think something went on with that election. I still don't think that election was 100% fair, or I think there was probably still some kind of shenanigans that went on there. Nevertheless, basically he has on Twitter, I've seen where a sexual harassment allegation, I think from years ago, is coming back to people's attention. And of course, he also, by the way, wants to make his vice president a female. Now I want to talk about that, but he's pledged to do that. Now, first of all, I find it interesting how the Democrats and the feminists and kind of the party of the Democrats, or the party of the feminists, the Democrats, after all the Me Too stuff, after all the talking about the Me Too movement, how easily they just ignore or sweep to the side these allegations about Biden, and especially after all the almost joke at this point about him smelling women that he does do quite a lot. If you've seen this, it's of course pictures all over the internet, video footage. He seems to, for some reason, smell every chick that he meets. But anyways, this same guy now is being accused of a sexual misconduct, or has a sexual misconduct allegation against him that's all over Twitter. And some of the more, I suppose, honest or sincere feminists and some of the Bernie supporters and probably Trump supporters too are talking about this. And I find it interesting how the feminists still support him and supported him in spite of all the smelling. And now this, and I've said before, it's a political agenda, it's a narrative-driven agenda, and it has very little interest in facts or truth, and it's ultimately insincere. And I've said a lot of other things about it, that it's largely used in many cases to make money, and a lot of other things about feminism. But here you have a situation where it's agenda, but it's not even identity agenda, because this isn't a woman, of course. And the same feminists that wanted to vote for Elizabeth Warren over Bernie Sanders, who backed Biden, many of them are ignoring these allegations. And I find that interesting. And of course, he says that he's going to choose a woman to be his vice president. Something that I find to be, first of all, not even withstanding feminism. I find that to be stupid, because honestly, if you've already decided on the gender of your vice presidential running mate, or race or religion or religious creed or sexual orientation or anything else, and you have not yet even met the person, or you haven't even talked to anyone, and you've already decided who that's going to be, you're probably not someone that should be president. You don't have a very good sense of decision-making ability. Because who are you to say? How do you not know that there might not be some male out there who's more fit to be the vice president? Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. But he's already decided on the vice president. Of course, I know the real reason for that is it very well could be because he plans on it to be Nancy Pelosi. Let's be honest. And I've even seen pictures and things of him, kind of together with her. They're laughing. And I would not doubt that. I would not doubt they haven't screwed Sanders again with the, because it's a big club. Just like George Carlin used to say, it's a big club and you're not in it. But regardless of all that, I've talked enough about that. I just want to throw that out there. But also, if it does get down to Biden versus Trump and he's your nominee, and let's say you get to be within a month of the election, that's going to look like a big freak show. You're going to turn the convention and perhaps the entire presidency into a complete freak show. If these allegations do turn out to be more than simply allegations, and they go from the Twitter to the news, and the news media starts picking them up. And I'm sure Fox News, along with Trump and the Republican Party, would love to hit them on this, and I'm sure they will try to. So I don't understand what the Democratic Party is doing. Of course, you have all the other nonsense about Biden. I mean, the corruption with the Ukraine scandal with him and his son. Perhaps him using influence to get his son in that position in Ukraine, in that company in Ukraine, or whatever the fuck went on there. All the bullshit about Cocoa Puff or whatever that guy's name was. He said he met. He almost got in a fight with a gang leader in the 60s named Cocoa Puff, talking about cockroaches, random nonsense, and doing everything but talking about the time he saved Christmas from the Grinch. I mean, pretty much everything else he's talked about. So, again, I've talked too much about that, and I'm sorry. Another thing I would like to find interesting is I've seen, and that was just this particular guy. I'm not going to give his name because I don't want to sound like I'm hitting him or ridiculing him, because I'm not trying to. But this is totally kind of off topic. But he was talking about, I guess he's a baby boomer. He's about 60, and he's talking about millennials. And of course, they're not millennials. It's Generation Z, I think, is what he's talking about. But anyways, let's say anyone under, say, 30. Let's just say that. It's probably people, I'm in my late 20s. It's probably people a lot younger than me, or not a lot, but at least a little bit younger than me. Teenagers, early 20-somethings. That's probably what he's talking about. But anyways, he's talking about them. They're going to the beaches. They're going to spring break, spring breakers, spring breaking, whatever. They're not listening to the Surgeon General. And so on and so forth about the coronavirus. At the same time, they are supposedly knocking the baby boomers or older generations for not having the country prepared, not really preparing anything for the coronavirus. And he's not wrong. I mean, obviously they're not running the country, but that's not the point. Anyways, he was kind of knocking them on being stupid and irresponsible. But aren't these the same generation that you were calling doom generation, and you were talking about they stay at home all the time in dark rooms, much like myself, actually? Anyways, but they play too many video games, and they don't go out, and they don't hit on girls as much, and they're not getting married as much, and a lot of them stay at home with their parents, and they're awkward, and they're antisocial, and they're all these other things. You were saying that, but now all of a sudden they're on the beach and they're partying and they're wild party animals. How do you have it both ways? How do they go from being a generation of Columbine kids 1 minute to being these crazy go-getters that just want to go to the beach and make some lame under budgeted movie from the 60s about surfing? I don't fucking know. The point is, I find that odd. So, anyway, the point is every generation has idiotic behavior. The baby boomers did, the other generations, whatever the hell my generation is, did. They all do. So I don't like this knocking the kids. And there are even people I saw on the Twitter knocking on a news thread on CNN news thread on Twitter, and they were knocking them over. They were complaining because they didn't actually get to graduate, like they don't have a formal graduation ceremony the way the other people did. And while I understand that that's not really of a high topic of high importance concerning the coronavirus, I would also like to say that you have to understand these people went to school for 4 fucking years or however long they went. They've, did all this. And of course, I guarantee you one thing, they're not going to miss out on the college debt. But yet when they actually want to graduate, they can't. And then they complain, and then you try to diss them again. And I'm sure many of these kids probably will go into massive debt. Some of them might even have to join the army or that kind of thing in order to pay off the debt. And they probably are going to be in a worse situation than they would be had they never even went to fucking college, probably. But with all that being said, I just find it interesting that, people are knocking them, and especially given the two totally different reasons they were knocking them. Before, they were knocking them because they're snowflakes, or they're these weird kids and they're video game nerds, and now they're knocking them because they're on the beach partying. So it's like, make up your fucking mind, but whatever. Anyways, Speaking of college debt, college and mainly debt, um, Biden, I want to talk about Sanders, and that was what this entire fucking video was supposed to be about, was Sanders' policies, and I got off on that somehow. But not to start on the economic side of things, because I've talked about that before, and you should obviously know by now what my economic stances are, that I'm more or less a socialist, or at least a democratic socialist or close to it. I am progressive, but I'm going to start out with LGBTQ issues, because he actually was mayor of a place called Burlington, Vermont, back in the 80s. In 1983, as time went on, it became somewhat of a safe spot for transgender people, gay people, but largely, especially transgender people, that were essentially, they were more or less welcomed, more so than other areas. And not only did he support gay rights, but he also was one of the first mayors and states in the country to support a parade for transgender people. And of course, in the 80s, you can imagine how gay rights and homosexuality still wasn't understood or accepted. You can imagine how transgender issues were even less accepted, and people knew even less about transgender issues. So this rattling clusterfuck of a video that I shouldn't have made, because I didn't know exactly what I wanted to say, and it sucks, and it's hot where I'm at, and sorry. Anyways, he did support transgender issues, and by 1987, it had become as I was saying, it had become a spot that was known as like a safe spot in America for gay and transgender people. And he further expanded those rights by by expanding the Fair Housing Act, that also covered gays and transgender people, and further extended coverage to other people as well, including older Americans, people that had mental issues, often disabilities, and so forth. So it covered a wide variety of people, and it extended fair and equal treatment of, again, the LGBTQ community, but also of older people, disabled people, different groups. So he did that as well. Welfare recipients and other people, he covered them as well under this Fair Housing Act, and that protected them from discrimination in regards to housing. But anyways, other things he did, other policies he has, of course, and to go into a little bit more into the LGBTQ. I hope I didn't fuck that up. Sorry. Let's see. LGBTQ. He wants to further expand transgender rights and gay rights now by different policies. I can't think of one of them. Equality Act, that will ensure that, for example, as I've talked about in the past, transgender and gay people, LGBTQ people, can't be discriminated against or kept from doing things like as simple of a thing as using the bathroom that they identify as. Kept off sporting teams, I suppose, and things of that nature, of the identity they identify as. It prevents bullying and harassment of transgender girls and of transgender people and of gay people in schools and other such things. It also he also passed the Every Child Deserves a Family Act that will prevent discrimination against potential gay adopted parents or parents who are gay and or transgender or LGBTQ trying to adopt children. In, of course, any other scenario where discrimination might come forth, perhaps the kids transgender, there are transgender children, then you can't discriminate against that child. So it allows for LGBTQ people to have the same rights to adopt children as anyone else, and it allows for more of an opportunity for the children themselves to be adopted, because as we know, there are far too many children in this country who need adoptive parents, and they need to be adopted, and they can't be. So this will protect those children as well as the gay people seeking to adopt children. So it does that. You love how some people will give you like literally, I don't know, 20 or 30 seconds, and then they're like, oh, well, I don't like that. Yeah, like you're going to know. And then it got way off topic. Just that's really annoying. It throws me off, but whatever. Talking about the person that just left. We're on here for a minute and then left. It's really annoying. Anyways, how are they going to pay for this? He's got a number of ways of paying for this. I want to also talk about. One is by raising the taxes on 0.1% of the country, the top 0.1% of the country. And I believe it's anyone making over $10 million. I'm not going to bother checking. It might have been more than that. It's going to create a higher tax, basically a progressive tax, a wealth tax on people that make $10 million or more dollars. It's going to start to tax inheritance taxes. They're going to raise the taxes of corporations. They're going to break up various corporate and banking lobbies. They're going to end too big to fail, along with too big to jail for the banks and Wall Street bankers. It's going to regulate further regulate banking and various predatory capitalist activities in this country. And again, it really goes back to what I've said before. While there is no such thing as communism, but democratic socialism is not communism, and capitalism, if you know anything about it, is essentially not even free market. It's really the story of free market, because it's rich, wealthy people hoarding and safeguarding money at the expense of the rest of the economy, and seeking to make more money, and often manipulating the markets, the economy, and the government. And they do things that are harmful to the environment, as well as the rest of the Americans, the rest of their fellow countrymen, in the name of protecting their money. So it's really all a capitalist economy. A capitalist economy can't function or work for long, because it's like a snake eating its tail. It's self-destructive. It really destroys it. It's not an economy. It's not an economic system. It's corruption, and it's a problem to the economy. That's really all it is. And eventually it will collapse. It's not regulated. It's an impossible system to manage. So that doesn't work. And I'm going to leave it there. There was other things I wanted to talk about. He also wants, I like how they put it, he wants to decrease, in order to raise money. I think it was like something like a $3 trillion or something. He wants to raise $3 trillion in money to help pay for a lot of these things. He wants to decrease military spending for what he says is essentially, he outright says on his page, and you can look at his website to see many of his policies and so forth. But he said that in order to raise, I believe, $1 trillion or $3 trillion or some shit like that, he's going to decrease spending Sanders wants to decrease spending on basically protecting oil. And that's what a lot of this is. And of course, in Afghanistan, we're also guarding the opium fields, or farming opium in Afghanistan. And that's on record. We're doing that. And it's a very illegal, illicit activity. So anyways, he wants to save about $3 trillion through simply cutting military spending to protect oil interests. And that's what a lot of this is. And a lot of it has to do with Saudi Arabia also. We're tied in with Saudi influence, and a lot of what went on in Syria and parts of the Middle East had to do with Saudi Arabia. And they were sending in American-backed and American-funded, basically mercenaries into Syria. I mean, we were doing that. So anyway, I'm going to leave it there. I'm sorry I took so long talking about every damn thing but what this video was supposed to be about, and that's all. P666.